Welcome back, everybody, to the David Pakman Show. Luke Beasley here filling in for David while he is away. Don't forget to check out my YouTube, Luke Beasley on YouTube, or Luke Beasley on any podcast listening platform if you are a listener. There was a Texas GOP convention over the weekend where a number of notable things happened. One of the big takeaways from a couple of these moments is that the far right isn't far right enough for the extreme, radical right-wingers that are becoming more prominent. So what I'm talking about is Dan Crenshaw was walking through an event and got aggressively accosted by some right-wingers, not liberals. The left's not going after him. It's these far, far right people going after Dan Crenshaw, calling him a rhino, Republican in name only. Let's take a look at this video and then we'll discuss.
I Patch McCain. Hey, I Patch McCain. Look at I Patch McCain right here. You're a rhino. You're a globalist. You're a globalist rhino.
And red flag laws too, Dan? That's ridiculous. Hey, Dan, why are you on the World Economic Forum Young Global Leaders? World Economic Forum Young Global Leader. Hey. Dan, what's Klaus Schwab's number? You got Klaus Schwab's number? Klaus Schwab's number, Dan?
So they're screaming at him, calling him a globalist rhino. Again, that's Republican in name only. And usually people call other Republicans rhinos if they're not pro-Trump enough or far-right enough. And then they also were calling him Eye Patch McCain, which is a term Tucker Carlson coined, which is bizarre. Why? I never understand. Stop going after people's physical features. Just go after their positions, their policies. That's it. It's crazy. Or their, lack of principles, whatever it is. Anything that's not physical appearance related, or the fact that he's, has damage to one of his eyes. You could see it seemed to escalate to actual violence. I couldn't quite tell with that video what happened, but from the reporting as well as what you could hear in the video, it looked like something really got physical besides just them kind of pressing up. And then I guess one of the guys was very upset that Dan Crenshaw is involved in the World Economic Forum, which I know very little about, but Klaus Schwab, he kept saying, is the founder of it. I don't know what his deal is with all of that, but the crazy thing is Dan Crenshaw is very pro-Trump and he's very conservative, but he just barely sort of critiqued Trump and wasn't the most, outspoken, the election was stolen person. He kind of avoided that question. And then he supports red flag laws was one of the things they brought up. And that's what you're angry about? That tiny little difference between Trump and him and between you and him? He's a conservative guy and they're still not happy with him. It's crazy because their actual policy differences are so tiny. It just, Dan Crenshaw doesn't appear radical enough for their liking. Because if you think about Democrats, AOC and Joe Manchin, the difference between those two people is way larger than any Republicans in their policy differences. And yet leftists aren't going out and accosting Joe Manchin like that. In the spirit of this, at the same Texas event, Ted Cruz got made fun of for being a Trump bootlicker, but in a contradictory way. He first criticized Trump a lot on the campaign trail, and Trump alluded to his wife being ugly, and his dad may have done 9/11. And Ted Cruz you don't talk about my family like that. So against you. And then Trump wins the nomination, and Ted Cruz is mwah. So a guy walked up. He's not the hero, but he makes correct points. Let's take a look.
America, you know that. Remember how Trump made fun of your wife and then you go become best friends with Trump? I know, but why do you do that? You go become best friends with Trump after he makes fun of you and your wife. Why do you do that?
I understand you don't want to defend Texas and you don't want to.
No, I do love America. See, you don't. You care more about the border between Ukraine and Russia than you care about the border between Texas and Mexico. Why is that? Why do you care about that?
We're done.
I know, but why are you a globalist? You're a globalist, bud. You know it, Ted. Hey, Teddy, you're a globalist. You're a globalist, Ted. You know that, bud. And that's why you're a coward and a liar. And you know that, and I know that. And that's why you're afraid to stand up for it. When people were freezing and dying, you were in Cancun, Mexico. You remember that? You remember when you're at the all-inclusive buffet while people were freezing? No, but do you remember that, Ted, when everybody was freezing? Remember that, when people were dying? What were you doing?
So, like I said, that guy's a little off his rocker. If you ever hear someone use the term globalist or as David Pakman says, impersonating Alex Jones, globalish. Most of the time, I guess you could use that term if you meant like someone who's pro-globalization, a globalist, or like there could be an okay usage of that word definitionally, but the way that it's used in politics is almost always super conspiratorial and an indication that someone's a little but the points he was making besides that weren't wrong, right? I mean, it can't be forgotten that Ted Cruz kissed up to Donald Trump after Trump alluded to his wife being ugly. Oh, maybe his dad did 9/11 is what Trump was spouting off about. And Ted was so brave at that point, characterizing Trump as such a terrible candidate. And then Trump won the nomination, and Ted Cruz is the biggest bootlicker. And then also, it shouldn't be forgotten, as that guy pointed out, that Texas was in that big freeze, and Texans were suffering, and he flew off to Cancun and then blamed it on his daughters. That was so weird. This is a complete side note, but during that freeze, because it's popped up, this is a crazy, cute story. At that point, my family, we were all here, and we had 12 puppies. Not my entire family wasn't here, but I was here, sister, parents, and we had 12 puppies, golden retriever puppies from a golden retriever that we had, or we still have. And these 12 puppies were at like little weeks old. And so whenever the freeze happened, all the power went out. And if they stayed out in our house when it got that cold, they would all have died. Luckily, we had one little space heater. So we packed in this tiny little room, used the space heater to keep the puppies alive. It was wild. And during all of that, instead of Ted Cruz coming and helping us with our puppies, no, he could have helped other people. He was off in Cancun living up the good life. So he's a goofball, the guy who walked up to Ted Cruz, but so is Ted Cruz. So he kind of deserves it. And the points he was making were definitely correct. And I love how Ted Cruz's reaction is always just completely not address what they're saying. He kept saying like, oh, I know you don't love Texas or you don't want to defend Texas. Okay, yeah, sure, Ted.
One of our sponsors is Magic Spoon, the only breakfast cereal that tastes exactly like your favorite sugary childhood cereals, but with 0 sugar, only 4 net carbs, and 14 grams of protein. So if you're just generally trying to keep your sugar intake relatively low like me, or if you're doing low carb, if you're doing keto, you can enjoy the sweet, nostalgic snack without the sugar in flavors like cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, cookies and cream, maple waffle, blueberry, cinnamon. They've just added honey nut to their permanent collection. I love Magic Spoon. Our whole team does, and they've been supporting the show for years. How about this? If you try Magic Spoon and you don't think it's amazing like we do, they'll give you your money back because Magic Spoon stands behind their product because it's that good. You really can't tell it apart from the classic cereals. Build your own custom variety pack. You'll get $5 off when you go to magicspoon.com/Pacman and use the promo code Pacman. The link is in the description.